Welcome into the Chiefs Report. I am your host, Harrison Graham. Let's get you caught up on the latest going on in free agency and how it relates to the Kansas City Chiefs. Not a ton going on with Chiefs Kingdom right now, but we'll get you caught up on what we know. It's been quiet so far. The Chiefs have tagged Chris Jones. As most of you know, they're still trying to work out a long-term deal. They restructured Frank Clark to get under the salary cap. Obviously lost a couple of key pieces in Kendall Fuller, mostly Fuller, and then Emmanuel Ogbah, who had 5.5 sacks last year as well. The lack of cap space has kept Kansas City on the sidelines so far. I think the Chiefs are waiting for that second wave of free agency. You know how this goes. First couple of days, boom, everybody signs all the, a lot of the big name players. A lot of teams overpay. Chiefs aren't in a position to do that. Don't have a ton of cap space, just a couple of million after restructuring Frank Clark to get under that number. They did bring back Patrick Mahomes' backup for 2020, and that is Chad Henne after they chose him over Matt Moore, it appears. I'm a little bit surprised by this two-year deal. Matt Moore played well last year in the 2 games he had to start, went 1-1. Moore is getting interest from the Giants and a couple of other teams, but obviously Chad Henne's been in the system longer. They're comfortable with him, and quite frankly, they probably got him at the veteran minimum. We still don't know the details of that deal, but they were not going to spend big on a backup quarterback, and why would you when you have Patrick Mahomes? So, been quiet, not a lot of moves. Who should the Chiefs target in free agency? Pretend you're Brett Veach. You are the general manager. Who do you want the Chiefs to go after in free agency? Go ahead and let me know. And while you're doing that, I want you to get subscribed to the Chiefs Report. Haven't been doing a lot of videos past couple days because there hasn't been a lot going on. But as soon as some big stuff happens, we will have videos up on the channel. And then obviously we'll have some draft coverage as well when free agency comes to an end. Hit that big red button. We'll have the latest news and rumors as information comes forward. Been quiet so far. I do think it'll pick up some steam over the next few days. Hopefully, at least. YouTube.com/ChiefsTV. That's the link. If you want to send it to a friend, boom, tell them, hey, that guy who does Chiefs stuff on YouTube, he's pretty good. So hit that big red button. Just to recap a couple of these moves, obviously Kendall Fuller back to the team that drafted him back a few years ago. 4 years, $40 million. That was clearly out of the Chiefs' price range. Sure, they could have maneuvered some moves to free up more cap space and bring back Fuller, but they were not going to pay him that much. Decent player in Kansas City, but not $10 million per year good. I mean, Chris Harris got less than this, for crying out loud. Good for Fuller. 25 years old, nice young player. He's versatile. Obviously, the Redskins are familiar with him. It does leave the Chiefs a hole at cornerback, and I like what Fuller did in the playoffs. In the regular season last year, he wasn't great. He missed 5 games with the hand problem, only 2 pass breakups for a cornerback in 11 games. That's not great. No interceptions. Obviously, he did have the pick in the Super Bowl and played his best in the playoffs, which I think led to him getting paid, plus his versatility is very, very valuable. But the Chiefs were not going to pay him. He'll turn 25 next season. Young player. I'm not surprised to see a team like Washington overpay for a player like Kendall Fuller. So, one-word reaction to losing Kendall Fuller. I want you guys to tell me. I'll say, not surprised, one word. I mean, they weren't going to pay that much. Expensive. How about that? 4 years, $40 million for Kendall Fuller. I like the player. He's young. I think he can get better, but I'm not paying that much when I have bigger needs coming up. You got to extend Patrick Mahomes in the near future. Plus, Chris Jones is wanting a long-term deal. That's the focus. I'll make this the pinned comment, so go ahead and scroll on down and answer this question, the one-word reaction to losing Kendall Fuller. He also lost Emmanuel Ogbah. He's heading to South Beach, 2 years, $15 million. Good for him. Had a nice resurgent season last year in just 10 games, 5.5 sacks. I thought he was really productive when he was out there. Gave the Chiefs a much-needed boost in the middle of the season when Frank Clark was dealing with the neck strain issue, and then Chris Jones wasn't healthy. I thought he provided good pass rush help. Then by the time he was banged up at the end of the year, Frank Clark was playing better. Chris Jones got back. So he played his role. Again, like Fuller, they weren't going to pay this much for really not even a starting defensive end. You got Alex Okafor. You got Frank Clark. You're hoping Chris Jones is here for the long term. So you weren't going to pay for Emmanuel Ogbah. Miami, tons of cap space. They made a bunch of moves, including bringing in Ogbah from Kansas City. This was a no-brainer. You couldn't afford to pay Emmanuel Ogbah in free agency. 5.5 sacks in 10 games, had a forced fumble, 32 tackles. I was pleasantly surprised with the production he gave Kansas City last year, but when it's all said and done, he was not going to be back in 2020. So you lose Fuller, You lose Ogbah. But more focusing on Fuller, that creates a need at cornerback, and I think bringing back Bashaud Breeland is got to be a major focus for Kansas City because obviously Chris Harris, they had interested in him as well. He signed with the Chargers to be in the AFC West, by the way, which the Chargers have made a lot of good moves. So I think bringing back Bashaud Breeland, you're familiar with him. He played really well down the stretch last year. I actually thought he played better than Kendall Fuller last season. Now he's older. He's pretty much only an outside corner. He doesn't have the versatility that Fuller does, where Fuller can play nickel outside and some safety as well. But Breeland stayed healthy. He had 2 picks, more pass breakups. He had an interception in the Super Bowl as well. I like what I saw for him last year, and I don't think he'll cost as much as Kendall Fuller will. I definitely don't think he'll be $10 million per year. So we will see, but I think bringing him back needs to become a priority for this Chiefs front offense. And obviously, this is kind of where the secondary looks right now. You got Matthew and Thornhill at the safety spots, and Thornhill expects to be back by training camp, so that's a good sign. Travis Ward is locked in. I've got Rashad Fenton at nickel right now. If you have to roll with him there, I think you're okay. I like what I saw from him last year. He's kind of a younger Fuller, very versatile player. And then Breeland obviously is a free agent. If you can bring him back, he's your other outside corner. Bring back Breeland, you're in decent shape. Maybe you draft a rotation corner on day 2 or something like that. Should the Chiefs re-sign Bashaud Breeland? Type Y for yes, type in for no. Obviously, money is always a factor when when I pose these questions, but I think the answer has to be a resounding yes. You need him back. You need cornerback help. There's not a lot of corners left on the market. You know what Breeland brings to the table. You had him last year. He played well in Steve Spagnuolo's scheme. I am typing my Y for yes, and I think you guys should do the same. I think what you should also do is take advantage of this jacket sale. 25% off, chatsports.com/Chiefs jacket. We're kind of in that awkward phase of spring's here, but it's not fully here. Like, it's starting to warm up, which means it's perfect zip-up jacket weather. It's 25% off. The link will be in the comments. It'll be in the description. Chatsports.com/Chiefs jacket. Take advantage of this today. These deals do not last forever. So more roster moves, could they be coming? Like I said, it's been a quiet free agency period so far, but there's still players out there, and the Chiefs can create some cap space. Right now, they don't have much. They restructured Frank Clark to get under the cap because all teams had to be under the cap by 4 o'clock Eastern time on Wednesday. So they did that to get under. They have several ways to free up money. It's not like the Chiefs can't make any moves. They have options. They have contracts they can restructure. They have players they can cut, starting with Sammy Watkins. Look, we've talked about this a bunch. I like Watkins. He can't play under a $21 million cap hit, though. I'm sorry. You just can't have it happen. You got to cut him, or you got to restructure him. And if you're going to restructure, I think it's got to be a major restructuring. That cap hit has to get down to at least 12 or 13 million, in my opinion, if you're going to keep him. Because otherwise, you can just cut him and save 14 million. Like, they could have cut Sammy Watkins and signed Chris Harris if they wanted to. They opted not to, but that was an option for the Kansas City Chiefs. It's the easiest way to create cap space. I like Watkins. He's not super consistent. He was great in the playoffs. Don't get me wrong. Chiefs don't win the Super Bowl without him. That catch over Richard Sherman when he burns him on the double move on the game-winning drive, sensational. He was awesome. But most of that production, or a third of that production right there on the screen, was in week 1. Like, he's a number 2 receiver in an offense that doesn't really need him. They'd like to keep him, but not for $21 million. So, what do you guys think? What should the Chiefs do with Sammy Watkins? Type R for restructure. Type C for cut. I still think cutting is just the easiest route. I really do. If it's a significant restructuring, down to $12 million from $21 million cap hit, fine. I'm okay with that. But going from like 21 to 16, that's not enough for me. I think you've got to go bigger than that. So I'm probably just going to type my C for cut. Another player the Chiefs could cut is Laurent Duvernay-Tardif, the guard. I like him. I think he's a good player. We all love the doctor, LDT. He's a funny guy and all that stuff. But his cap hit's almost $9 million this year, guys. And it's a little bit high for a good player, but certainly not a Pro Bowl guard or anything like that. I think you could go in a different direction there. Cutting him saves $4 million. You think about this. You could restructure Watkins to keep him and then just cut LDT. That way you don't have to cut Watkins outright. That could be an option as well. Good player, but he is definitely overpaid. That is another way I would look at saving some money. You could go in a different direction. You could extend Travis Kelce, who has a couple of years left on his current contract. His 2020 cap hit is just over $11 million. That is obviously a bargain for what I think is the best tight end in the NFL, if not the second best. Some would say George Kittle. I think Kelce's better, but that's certainly up for debate. Either way, that's a good cap hit number right there. If you extend him, it lowers that number, which means that would be even better of a deal for the Chiefs. He's got 2 years left on his contract, but I certainly think Kansas City wants to keep him longer than that. 2-3 year extension, lower that cap number. The classic, we'll worry about later. You're in your win now window right now, so I think extending Travis Kelce could be an option. Interesting question for you guys. Who is the better player? Type K for Travis Kelce, type H for Tyreek Hill. Obviously, Tyreek Hill is locked in long-term as well. Chiefs took care of that last offseason, but I think it's Kelce, type K. I think it's Hill. Go ahead and type H in the comments section. And then this is the last option, and this is not my favorite option. I actually hate this option, but you could trade Chris Jones. We saw the Chiefs do this last year with Dee Ford. Now, I think Chris Jones is a much better player than Dee Ford. I think he's more valuable on this defense. I think any time you have a player who can get a sack production from the interior of a defensive line, I think that's incredibly valuable. That's what Chris Jones brings to the table. He had 9 sacks last year. He had 15.5 sacks a couple of seasons ago. His cap hit $16.1 million under the tag, but if you trade him, obviously it frees up all of that money. I don't like this option. I don't want the Chiefs to go in this direction, but it is an option. You can trade him. You get a first-round pick in return, at least you get something back. We saw the 49ers do that with DeForest Buckner. They traded him and got the number 13 overall pick. So the Chiefs could explore that. I think there's easier and more productive ways to create cap space to be able to spend in free agency, but trading Chris Jones, it is an option.